We're
Oh, I think we're
live.
live, baby. I think
Yeah.
we're live, baby. What up, leaguers? Welcome to the Spectacular Spoiler League. I am the Pandan Superman, the mayor of Hype City, HazyRome. And as always, I'm joined by the God of Night, the Prime Minister of Post-Production, DeepBoyce. And today we're in the Hall of Spoilers to talk a little bit about Deathstroke, the Terminator, baby. DC's apparently working on a Deathstroke movie, DeepBoyce. And we wanted to talk about it because, the essential question is a Deathstroke movie necessary? And necessary, is kind of a silly word because is anything really necessary? Is any of these movies really necessary? But we're discussing whether or not is it needed in the DCEU right now? You tell me, DeepBoyce. Talk to me.
I mean, let's keep it. Let's keep it to a DCEU discussion because talking about is anything necessary, talking about existential questions, we'll be here all night, all day.
You're right.
But, there was news today that it is, in fact, in the works. It's a go. Joe Manganiello or Manganiello or, I'm not sure how you would pronounce it, but we all know who he is.
Wow. We're going to call him Joe for the sake of this live stream real quick.
Joe the man, he's going to be Deathstroke, the Terminator. And he not only that, but he's going to have a solo film. Rumors before all of this were that Deathstroke was going to be in the upcoming Batman film.
Sure.
But as we know, it was kind of up and down in terms of rumors and news, and we didn't know if that movie was even going to happen, if Ben Affleck was going to be Batman, if Deathstroke was going to be in it. I think they asked him, and it didn't seem like he was entirely sure. I mean,
nobody, to be honest with you, nobody knows at this point. The only thing we know is that Ben Affleck was directing the Batman. Now he's not directing the Batman. And in that whole, switch up, people were wondering whether or not Deathstroke was still going to be in the Batman movie. That was pretty much the bottom line.
Yeah, but like you asked, is this necessary, a Deathstroke solo film? And honestly, that's a tough question. That's a tough question to answer there because as cool as Deathstroke is, I don't know if people are asking for that character like that, for them to really give him his own movie. I mean, I think what is interesting is giving what is potentially a villain his own movie, which I think we should really be getting more of, not just in DC, but in Marvel. I mean, there are plenty of villains out there that should get their own movies, but...
Is Deathstroke a villain, though? Like,
it really depends on how they want to portray him.
Yeah, he's played the villain, but he is more of an antagonist as opposed to a villain. Like, I feel like Deathstroke sometimes plays the role of anti-hero as well. And, to anybody watching the live stream right now, what up? Feel free to comment. Feel free to comment on that. But, I mean, is Deathstroke really a villain? Like, we see, this is obviously a superhero or anti-hero who may or may not be as popular, but take a look at Venom and what Sony's doing. Mm-hmm. Like, Venom has been a villain in the comics before, but now he is an anti-hero. And, I feel like we can consider him an anti-hero. And Marvel and Sony decided, hey, let's make a movie about this guy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, is that the way to go? Is that what we want? I don't know. For me, I look at it this way. I'm like, DC has mad movies on their plate right now. Like the DC Extended Universe or whatever they're going to call it, because they still haven't decided what they're even calling the whole thing, because now they have like their solo brand of movies that aren't necessarily going to tie into the mainline films, like the Joker Origins movie that they've been talking about. But they've got so many movies in the works. Like, that to me is the scariest part. I know it's different directors. I know that it's different people handling the task, and studios handle a bunch of movies all the time. But I just mean, like, I feel like if they're trying to make something that has its continuity, it's gonna get confusing. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna get confusing. And as you said, is Deathstroke a character who we need a solo film for? Is he someone that we want to see a solo film for? Personally, I don't really need that right now.
I'm kind of on the same boat with you. And look, Deathstroke is a cool character, but
sure,
he's kind of been overshadowed by a character that was created to parody him. oddly enough.
Deadpool.
Which is Deadpool.
Right,
You know, people are far more interested in seeing Deadpool, and he had a solo film, and it was wildly successful. It made a lot of money. I'm just, you know, Deathstroke brings up, like when you asked, is it necessary? Usually when it comes to superhero films, you got to ask yourself, is there at least one story that I can hang my hat on when it comes to this character? And there are for Deathstroke, but they're not solo stories.
That's what I was thinking in my head as you said it. I'm like, yeah, Deathstroke has been, I mean, probably the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Deathstroke, I would think is the Judas Contract. That's the one that people, I feel like, if you're a fan of comics or a casual fan of comics, you know about that. But that, obviously, as you said, involves the Teen Titans.
Yeah.
And, you know, they haven't introduced the Teen Titans yet. So it's tough because I feel like any story that they would tell would just, I feel like it may not even be derivative of any particular comic if they made a movie about him, which is not a problem. But I feel like it would focus on something where Deathstroke is on a mission and he's basically chopping up a bunch of bodies. And that's that.
Yeah, but that would make me worry a bit, to be quite honest with you, because I agree. That would make him extremely generic. If it's like superpowered merc, suit of armor, you know, I don't know, he's going to Africa, Middle East, wherever, or he's a hitman, and he's just whatever. Even if it's an origin story, you know, like what exactly are you going to do that's going to be different? Like why would you do that instead of putting money into another character that could have interesting stories and be an interesting movie? I just, you know, not to criticize the DCEU too much, but you know, they really, it's best for them to kind of focus on their heavy hitters or to take chances on things that will definitely be successful at the box office. And I don't exactly see that with Deathstroke. And again, Deathstroke is a really cool character, but it's just the idea that it's a solo film just brings up a lot of question marks. Like, where are we going to go with this? And then after the film, like, what are you going to plan on doing with the character?
Yeah, you know, I'm thinking about it now, and I'm saying to myself, like, the DCEU has a lot of movies in the works, but the other question is, we don't really know too much about what they're planning, and you know, who knows? This could be something where let's say, for example, maybe Deathstroke is actually appearing in the Batman film. Maybe he still is in there. Maybe it's a situation where they like what they're seeing with the Deathstroke character, or they like what they're planning, I should say, for the Deathstroke character, and they want to push forward with the solo movie after they've already introduced him in something else. We don't know the full extent of the plans. It's just, you know, it just seems a little bit, I hate to say this, premature, and I hesitate to say premature because I'm not sitting in DC offices. You know what I'm saying? I wish I could be a fly on the wall in DC, you know, in DC studios right now, DC's office, Warner Brothers in DC's office, because I'm just like, you guys have an overwhelming amount of movies on your plate.
And I think that matters because, you know, right before we kind of set this whole thing up, and you sent me like a link to, I guess, like a discussion. I think it was a Twitter discussion. The sentiment isn't like, oh, there's a lot of buzz and excitement, like, oh, finally we got this, and it's gonna be interesting to see this Deathstroke movie. It's just like, oh, well, here's another DC movie announced among a whole bunch of other ones, and that after a while that'll affect the whole slate of movies that you're putting out. Like you don't want to be in a situation where it's like, oh, well, it's kind of routine, here's another one. Oh, we're getting this other character. Oh, yeah, okay, well, all right. It's not even negative, and that's to me that's almost worse. People are just like oh, all right, and then that's it. People don't say, well, that's great, and people are not like, that's kind of bad. Let's see if we can, because even if you get negative press, you know, the movie's so far along in terms of its development that, you know, you could use that as feedback. You could say, oh, maybe we should change this up. Maybe we should do this. Maybe we should take a different angle.
Sure. And
hopefully improve it. But if it's just like it's here and it's there, then that's not good, in my opinion. That is not good.
Let's bring over to the chat real quick because there's some interesting things that are being said in response to what we're saying here. Mm-hmm. So we got Bob Hu Cmem. I hope I pronounced that right. He said, I'd like to see a film that maybe focuses on how the character turns from being an antagonistic anti-hero to becoming a full-fledged villain. Now that would kind of see the reason why that caught my attention is because that would kind of line up with what DC seems to be focusing on, where they're looking at the Joker, they want to tell his story. They're looking at Harley Quinn, they want to tell her story. They're looking at Catwoman and Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn for Gotham City Sirens, as Jackson Herod in the chat pointed out, to focus on some of these villains. So what if maybe it's a story of him falling into villainy? Maybe him starting off as not such a bad guy, which Deathstroke in the comics, if you've seen, especially like now in Rebirth, he wasn't always the greatest guy, but he wasn't as like antagonistic as he is now. Like he wasn't as antagonistic in his past, according to Rebirth, as he is now. So what if they were telling the story of his downfall? What if they were telling the story of him just kind of falling into this pit of despair? You know what I mean? What if it had something to do with his kids? Because we know him with Rose Wilson and Jericho. It's been a tumultuous life for Deathstroke. You know what I mean? And Grant, well.
Yeah, I mean that. Honestly, if it's well done, I think that would be super interesting. Because, like I said, there are almost no films that focus on villains. I mean. Like, yeah, you have like Wolverine films and he's an anti-hero, but he's more on the heroic side of things, Sure. And we'll see how the Punisher pans out. That's not a movie, obviously, but that's a Netflix show that they're doing. Who knows where it'll lie in terms of, is he more of a villain? Is he more of a hero?
Right.
So kind of focusing a little bit more on a character that is maybe on the fence and decides to, I'm going to be a bad guy, could be interesting. And I feel that would fill in some gaps, at least that I personally have with the Deathstroke character, where, like I said, I like him. I'm not really all that knowledgeable on Deathstroke, but it's never quite clicked to me, like, what is the deal with this character? Because in the Teen Titans,
listen, man, he got white hair and an eye patch, man. What is there not to like, man?
It's not that, but I'm just saying...
He got a sword. What is there not to like about Deathstroke?
The thing is, if you see Deathstroke in the Teen Titans cartoon show, he's a straight-up villain. Like he's just a terrible human being.
That's a really different. And I don't know. I feel like that interpretation in the Teen Titans animated series was a little bit like definitely more towards like the villainous. Yeah, like I just want to wreak havoc like Deathstroke.
Yeah, because from what I've seen, Deathstroke is someone that does things for the money.
Sure.
And I have been reading Deathstroke Rebirth. I haven't really read Deathstroke all that much beforehand, but he is. Again, he's a mercenary. He does it for the money, and excuse my language, he's just kind of a dick. Like that's really the extent of him being a bad guy, where he's just like, well, if I have to shoot through this person to get my target, then whatever. I want to enjoy my weekend and I want to get this over with. He's that kind of guy. He's not like, I want to take over the world. I want to fight this hero just because I hate him. He does things for money. That's pretty much why he does things. And if they're gonna give him like some sort of interesting motivation for being a bad guy, I'd be down to see that. And he's not a difficult character to market because he just looks cool.
Yeah, I mean, especially in that clip of the test footage that Ben Affleck had tweeted a little while ago. I think it was sometime last year where they showed like the test footage for Deathstroke and Justice League. I mean, he looked phenomenal. Like he looked great. So you're definitely right. They got the look down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm looking at the chat right here. Random profile. I mean, he's yelling from the rooftops right now, saying, "Stop giving the villains solo films. Get the heroes right first."
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was gonna say.
I mean,
listen,
it's fair.
I'm down for a villain film. I'm down for that. But at the same time, you still haven't gotten Superman right. And don't listen. I know there's mad Superman fans out there. I know they love Henry Cavill. Mm-hmm. I don't understand you, but let me stop. I understand you, but I just feel like Superman has a lot of work to be done. We still haven't got a Man of Steel sequel yet. Mm-hmm. Batman still hasn't had his fully fledged movie. We only have Wonder Woman, who's really gotten a solid movie. Yeah. Like,
and honestly, we don't know where Nightwing is gonna be. Like, to me, that would be the pairing that makes the most sense: Deathstroke and Nightwing. And since they're already, I guess, older, there's that history there. They could do some interesting stuff with those two characters right there. I would totally be down to seeing Deathstroke in a Nightwing movie and Nightwing in a Deathstroke movie to some degree, if that's what they're going to plan on doing. But that is the original point of the conversation. Question marks. Where are we with these movies? Where are we with Nightwing? Where are we with Deathstroke? How is this going to fit in? Is it just going to be solo films? Is there a DCEU anymore? What is the plan? What is the plan? We're just like, there's no plan. It's like movies, titles. We got to get those slots in for next year, the year after, the year after that, till infinity.
Let's run through some of the movies we know are coming right now. Okay. Yeah. Brace yourself, DeepBoyce. Brace yourself, chat. Brace yourself, those of you who are listening, who are watching this video not live, okay?
It can't be as bad as Fox's movie slate. That one knocked me off my chair. So I think I might be all right.
Fox doesn't have a lot of movies. It's just that it seems random. That's what it is with Fox.
Okay.
But DC has Aquaman, right? Which is currently being worked on, right? With James Wan at the helm. Mm-hmm. They're currently casting Shazam and Billy Batson, okay? Mm-hmm. They've already greenlit Wonder Woman 2. So they've got Patty Jenkins back in the director's chair for that.
And that's probably the one that makes the most sense at this point.
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt. Yeah. So back in like 2014, they announced that they were working on a cyborg film. Try not to laugh. Cyborg film.
Okay, Rat Man himself.
We already know that they're working on Green Lantern Corps. So they're working on a movie. They've confirmed that. That's confirmed. Mm-hmm. Josh Whedon was hired to direct the Batgirl, right? Mm-hmm. We've got Matt Reeves currently writing and set to direct the Batman, right? Mm-hmm. We've got the Flashpoint movie confirmed for the Flash. Mm-hmm. We've got Gotham City Sirens with Harley Quinn, Catwoman, and Poison Ivy, right? We've got the long maligned Justice League Dark film that's been in the works forever, and it was confirmed at San Diego Comic-Con in July 2017 that Justice League Dark was a thing. Then we've got Nightwing, which is currently being helmed by Chris McKay, and as of September, they have not casted their Nightwing yet, and he said they're going to cast a wide net on Twitter to find their Nightwing, right? We know Suicide Squad 2 is greenlit. You guys are expecting me to stop this list sometime soon. Not stop it, okay? They've got Suicide Squad 2. Remember, Black Adam is supposed to be in the works with Dwayne Johnson, okay? Deadshot, okay? In December of 2016, the Hollywood Reporter announced that Deadshot was in development with Will Smith back as Floyd Lawton. Then we've got
hold up. There were so many deads there. Deadshot?
Deadshot is supposed to be getting a movie. Yes. The Hollywood Reporter reported this in December 2016. I kid you not.
No. Let's correct that. It's not Deadshot getting a movie. It's Will Smith getting a movie. It is a Will Smith movie. That's the only reason that's being made.
But DeepBoyce, I'm not done.
Please, put me out of my misery.
I'm not done. We've got the Harley Quinn and Joker film that was supposedly in the works, right? Remember, we've got that new Joker origins film that may or may not be in the DCEU. They're basically saying that it's not going to be part of the main DCEU, but there's going to be a separate brand of films that won't take place in the extended universe. And that is a name that I put in air quotes because they don't even call it that internally. They said they're going to announce the name of that brand shortly.
Every time I read like some sort of interview or a news story where it's like DCEU extended universe, it's not connected, disconnected, gives me a headache.
It's crazy. Then there's the Justice League sequel that's supposed to be in the works. The Man of Steel sequel is also confirmed to be in production.
Justice League sequel?
Wait. September 2017. Matthew Vaughn confirmed that he's in discussions to direct the film, and he hasn't said that he signed on. And then there's a Lobo film that was long and gestation as well. Yes.
Lobo? Who wants to see Lobo? No offense to Lobo, but
Lobo. Back in March 2016, Jason Fuchs, he said he was working on a rewrite of the script. And in June, he confirmed that the character would be portrayed similar to the original comic book story arcs. And there you have it, everybody. The DCEU. It is insane, dude.
I mean,
It's insane.
Forget about
and now Deathstroke. Who asked for this, DC?
Forget about these movies being connected. Why the characters they're choosing that is probably the most random aspect out of all of this. We could have an hour-long discussion of other characters that would be more suited from films.
Of course.
We could eliminate like at least 5 of those movies and replace them with some other characters that would be much better to see. Lobo,
maybe
Lobo.
Maybe that's a conversation that needs to be had, man. I mean, I just love how the people in the chat are just going through all of these announcements and just like freaking out. Yeah. Everybody's collectively like, what is you doing, DC?
And guys, for those, understand that this frustration comes from a place of love. Because
of course,
we're not here like hating because we want this to fail. And even if we want it to fail, it's because we want it to be restructured. We want this to be done well. Of course. Because we need balance. You need good DC and good Marvel. You can't just have too much of one and not the other.
Preach, my brother.
I'm saying.
Testify.
If you're going to have a Man of Steel, you got to do it right. If you're going to have Green Lanterns, you got to do it right. Green Lanterns has not gotten the chance that it deserves.
Yeah.
Nightwing has not gotten the chance that he deserves. And he deserves it. We deserve it. We want to see it. Let's take like a year off here, DCEU, Warner Brothers. Sure. And listen, I have faith. We have faith in Jeff Johns. It must be the process. It must be so insane and all the suits, people that are not about comics. We need to help out. We need to protect Jeff Johns at all costs. Like, we need to make sure that
Jeff Johns is a beast. Okay, I met Jeff Johns at New York City Comic Con, and he was cool, man. He was super cool.
Yeah,
follows me on Twitter, by the way, too.
Flexing on him.
Flexing, bro. But I mean, people. One comment that I read it in the comments real quick in the chat that had me kind of cracking up, which is that people are saying that Arrow's doing their own version of Deathstroke, right? Next King Gamer said that like Arrow's only gotten permission to use Deathstroke because they asked DC, and DC was like, basically said, we don't got plans for him right now. Let him rock for now. But I don't know how long that's gonna last. So the Arrowverse and the TVverse, it ain't gonna stop them from making these movies. Case closed. No. Case closed. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not gonna happen. No. So you can put that to rest. Once they want to stop that, if they want to put the kibosh on anything on TV, it'll happen. Because if you remember, they were actually teasing the Suicide Squad on Arrow, and they were teasing that Diggle was going to be part of it. They had Deadshot, they had Cupid, they had Bronze Tiger, Amanda Waller, and
there was a Harley Quinn cameo too.
There was a Harley Quinn cameo, and that idea went the way of the dodo. Now, they did tease it again somewhat with the last season of Flash. I will admit that. But, they definitely, silenced that when Suicide Squad. It just so happened that the Suicide Squad movie was coming out, and all of a sudden you just seen that idea disappear off of Arrow. So Deathstroke is going to happen if they want it to happen. So don't get it twisted. I mean, Antonio Lagunas, he has a great name for the new DCEU, or what we should be calling it. We should call it the DC Forever Expanding Universe instead of the Expanding Universe. I like that. Good job, Antonio.
Forever. Nice job. That's a good one. That sounds like the beginnings of another DC crisis.
Trust me, there's a crisis going on right now.
That's pretty much why it happened like the first 2 times. Because it was the people in DC Comics were like, what the heck is going on? We don't know what's going on here. There's too much. There's like 15 Supermen. And they're like, we're destroying everything. And we're starting over again.
Over at DC Warner Brothers, they've got something going on that I like to call Crisis of Infinite Movies. They just the movies keep coming, brother. They just churning them out, bro. And I'm just like, I don't know. But I mean, it seems that I think a lot of people in the chat are not. They're not down with this Deathstroke solo movie. I'm not saying I'm not down with it, because the trailer could drop however many years from now and be it could blow our minds, blow our socks off. Yeah. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is we look at this and we look at what they have when they play, and we're like, do we need this? Do we need this? I don't feel we need to. Like, I don't feel like we need to have this movie.
At least not yet, you know. Not to compare DC to Marvel, but what Marvel does, where they will like premiere or present a superhero in another movie, makes it easier for them to make a solo movie for that character,
right?
Because it gives you a little bit more of a reason to to want to see more of them. Because you put Black Panther in Civil War, he looks really dope, and then you're like, okay, well, he's gonna get his own movie, and everybody's excited to see it because we already got a taste of that character. But when you don't really see that happening, it makes it a little more difficult. I mean, I see Jackson Stevens here. I mean, he jokes around. He says he can't wait for an Alfred solo movie in 2026. Honestly, listen. That to me is less surprising than a lot of other suggestions that might be out there. And Alfred,
you remember
there was an Aunt May solo film that was being shipped around, and that to me was ludicrous. I think I'd rather see Alfred origin story or something than Aunt May or any of these other characters, to be honest.
Oh my gosh, that Aunt May story! I was like, Sony, yo, please just give it all back to Marvel right now. Just give it all back to them, man. But I mean, people in this chat going in right now, they're like, yo, the Adam movie coming 2056, Robin coming in 2020, Captain Adam coming in 2023, Cyborg Superman coming in 2050. Like, listen, everybody
some of those out there, Robin, Kid Flash, hey, you can make a case for those. You could, in a perfect universe.
I mean, why not just make a Teen Titans movie or a Titans movie?
You could. Or, like
you don't need the solo movie for those people, though. Kilowog. Jackson Harris said Kilowog 2027.
Or you could have a premise like Dawn of Justice, where it's maybe like a quote unquote prequel to a Teen Titans movie, where it's like maybe the founding members of the Teen Titans. You know, you could do something like that. But
I just, in all seriousness, all jokes aside, I don't want to say I'm worried about the DCEU, because if you look at all the things that I named and all the movies I named, a lot of those movies have great talent, associated with it. I mean, the director that they're saying, the reported director for the Deathstroke movie is Gareth Evans. I think he directed a movie called The Raid Redemption. I've never seen it, but
I saw it. It was a great movie.
Yeah,
it was a great action movie. That guy can direct action for sure.
There you go. By all accounts, I've heard that it's a great a great movie. And, you can obviously attest more to that because you've actually seen it. Like, they are making the right choices in certain respects. And I think that we have to keep that in mind. And to a certain extent, we have to trust them. But ultimately, we decide whether or not we want to give them our money. Just remember that. You don't have to see these movies. Like, people, we can clown around and say, who wants to see a Lobo film? Like, I don't want to see a Lobo film. But you got to be honest, there's people out there that are Lobo fans and they will pay money for it. But with us saying, with me saying, we gotta decide what money we want to give them, they also have to be mindful of the fact that, like, yo, if these movies aren't making money, if these movies, crash and burn, if these movies aren't good, that could put a damper on people's interest in DC movies overall. That's things you have to be careful of. Something you have to be careful of.
That is absolutely true, especially when we have 3 big studios pumping out superhero movies all the time. But one thing about DC movies is they make a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, Wonder Woman. I mean, good Lord, she was making mad money.
Despite what people how they felt about Suicide Squad and Dawn of Justice, those movies made a lot of money. So. They're following the money, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I'm not in a position to really even talk about their financials because it seems like they're making the money back.
Exactly. I mean, to wrap this conversation up, I'm gonna hit you with one more. This is sort of a question. I'm framing it into a question, and it's from It's Silent Storm in the comments in the chat right now, and he says that Deathstroke is one of the few villains that you can do a solo movie for because he has his own comic series. How do you respond to that, DeepBoyce? What do you make of that statement? How do you feel about that?
Wow. I mean, no offense. I kind of disagree. I disagree. I mean, there are a lot of characters that have their own solo comics. that doesn't necessarily warrant a movie or a TV show, because just because there's a solo, I mean, there's characters get solo comics all the time. Even popular character solo comics get canceled or discontinued at certain times. I don't think that's a good enough of an indicator to say, well, let's give this character their own movie. And oftentimes, especially if you look at, let's say, like Marvel, the character will have a movie or be in a movie, and then they'll start the comic because people are like, oh, well, I want to see it now. It's usually not the other way around, where there's like a lot of people watching, reading the comic, and then it's like, oh, we should make a movie. I think, given how the industry is set up, the film, the producers and the studios, they're really thinking about making movies. They're not really thinking about how can comics bolster the movies, because the movie industry is it dwarfs the comic industry in comparison. So it really, they make the movie first. They keep that in mind, and they think about how they can make more movies. Sequels. That's another thing they always keep in mind with a lot of these superhero movies. And then like subsidiaries, because DC Comics is a subsidiary at this point. Marvel Comics is a subsidiary, which means that they're a smaller part of a much bigger machine. So those people that are in charge of that, they'll think, they'll look at, let's say, a certain movie that comes out that's popular, let's say Black Panther, and then they'll say, well, let's get, a good writer there, and let's put that comic out, and it starts selling because Black Panther is popular because of the movies, not because, the comic's popular, and then they make a movie. I mean, it's technically, but that's because there's a lot of history with a lot of these characters already. Sort of obviously it's derived from popularity from the comics, but at this point in time, it's really the other way around. The movies you dictate what goes on with the comics a little bit more. At the end of the day, it's after money and sequels, I think narrative is like the most important part. And the I guess the way, what would you call it? The format of a movie forces them to create a certain type of narrative. The way you write for a movie is not the way you write for a comic. So you have to really kind of keep that in mind, whether or not a character warrants a solo film. And again, there is that question of, is he a villain or not? I mean, I don't think it's confirmed that this is considered a villain movie or a movie with a villain as the main character. We don't know exactly how they're going to structure this movie. If they're just going to make him like Wolverine, where he kills people, but he's kind of still seen as a hero, or if, they're really going to take the artistic initiative to make this like a popular villain film. And then, because really, I mean, villains are tied to the heroes. So if the intention is to make this a villain solo film, it has to be tied to some other like good character.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's an interesting, who was it that posed that question?
That was, It's Silent Storm.
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting thing to propose, but I'm going to have to slightly disagree on that one.
Yeah. In addition to what you were saying, I mean, I'll keep it relatively short. Like, there are a lot of characters who get solo series all the time. Thanos had a solo series for Marvel. It was good, but does Thanos does any of us want to see a Thanos solo movie? No. I would think that the percentage of people who want that is relatively small. Now, you may argue that Deathstroke is a way more popular character than Thanos, and I can't sit here and quantify that for you. But what I can say is that you also have to keep in mind that these movies cost a massive amount of money to put together, and you're sitting here and you're betting on the fact that what you've established thus far is going to set the environment for a Deathstroke solo movie to be successful. And I think that is kind of the point that I'm thinking about, which is like you have to think about the movie climate right now, and how many other superhero movies or comic book based movies are bombarding the market right now. And you have Deathstroke here, and you're literally putting him out there with no field test whatsoever. Like I said, maybe they have plans to put him in the Batman. I don't know. I said that earlier in the video. Maybe they have plans to put him in another movie. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, there's been no like testing out there in the public, with the consumers, as to whether or not Deathstroke is a movie that they want to see.
Yeah.
And I think that's dangerous.
I mean,
that's dangerous.
Even if overall people have positive things to say about this, sometimes things that we want, we don't actually support, or they don't quite make the money. We don't show up to go support whatever content it is,
Sure.
Like a number of these movies are kind of, I guess focus grouped, as in, I mean, a good example I think is Harley Quinn. No offense, Harley Quinn is popular. I'm sure they go to the right demographics and look at the focus group, and they're like, we're gonna get our money back on this.
Right.
But they're not really thinking of, what are her stories, which they're zip. They're not like, look at how the comic is doing.
In my opinion,
that's not, they're not looking into that.
No,
they're looking into, because again, the majority of the people working on these films don't give a rat's ass about comics. they don't, and that may not always necessarily be a bad thing. I mean,
Jeff Johns cares.
Jeff Johns, yes, he does. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, let's say Christopher Nolan, I don't think he really cares about or reads comics, but he did his research, and he has like artistic integrity, so he wants to be true to the character.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And that may sound like a bad thing, but it's not always a bad thing. You just have to hope that the people involved are trying to make a good movie, because the people that are funding it, their interest is not comics, their interest is money.
Yeah, and and once again, with that interest in mind, is the audience for a Deathstroke movie there? Now, that being said, Jackson Herod in the comments he brought up a good point about Deathstroke potentially being a political thriller, particularly based on the Christopher Priest run of Deathstroke. I am 100% down for a political thriller, because I mean, Deathstroke has definitely been involved in political machinations as a mercenary. I mean, he's one of the best mercenaries in DC Comics.
That could be interesting. Like
that could be interesting.
What's the name of that movie with Gerard Butler? Like Morgan Freeman's the president or something like that. It's like kind of crazy, over the top. Like Gerard Butler, it almost seems like a Tom Clancy movie. I guess I'll put it that way, because I'm sure kids don't know about Tom Clancy anymore.
Yeah,
but that kind of approach, that's a good idea right there.
Was that? I mean, I felt like there was a movie
Olympus
called like White
Down
House Down or something like that.
Yeah, there were two that came out that same year. One was with I think Jamie Foxx.
Yeah, that was with Jamie Foxx. But I think the one you're thinking of is Olympus Has Fallen.
Something like that.
I think that's the name of the Gerard Butler film you're thinking of. But yeah, something politically based that has a comic book background. And if any of these comic book movies are going to survive, if the majority of these comic book movies are going to survive, they're gonna have to fall into some type of niche. And by that I mean they're going to have to take the movie formula that we know, or a movie formula we know, and insert comics into them, because these movies have to be able to separate themselves. We don't people are sick of seeing a million origin stories for characters. Like one thing about the Winter Soldier, for example, that's one of my favorite films in the MCU. That film was they said it was going to be sort of a spy film. You know what I mean? Which it was, because it had to do with, Hydra infiltrating S.H.I.E.L.D. and, various portions of the American infrastructure, right? Ant-Man, they said that was going to be a heist film. They try to turn these films into, sort of niche titles. And, if Deathstroke is going to be a movie, maybe it might survive that way. Yeah. But, DeepBoyce, any final words about this whole situation we got here?
Yeah, I mean, I hope it works out. I think Deathstroke is a character that...
That's nice of you.
I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I would like to see a good Deathstroke movie. I would. I'm not a huge fan of the character, but I just hope that they don't squander this opportunity. And I think Joe Manganiello, I think that's a good choice for that character.
Absolutely. I think that's a great cast. And I think that they have the makings of something good. Let's see what they do with it. But without further ado, if you guys are in the comments right now, if you guys are watching this video, whether live or not live, let us know what you think about the Deathstroke solo movie. Do you think we need it? Do you think it's necessary? Do you think there's a problem with the DCEU current movie slate? And by all means, Support the Spectacular Spoiler League by hitting that subscribe button and pressing that bell icon to turn on notifications so you could be up to date with the latest and greatest coming from the Spectacular Spoiler League. And by all means, help us out by dropping a like on the video. That would help us get out there and recruit some leaguers to the cause. We'll see you guys on the next one. We're heading out of here. We're getting out of the Hall of Spoilers. We're going to go find DCEU a compass so they can find out what direction they want to go in, guys. We'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you guys for coming out if you're on the live stream. Peace out.